Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. There always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now, you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here is your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, Mergers and Acquisitions for Small Business Owners, informative. If you are unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, a link can be found on my YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. If there are topics you'd find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now let's learn a little bit about our guest today. DeAnn Chase is a business attorney and strategic business growth expert who works with entrepreneurs and business owners to create proper legal structures that form the foundation for successful business. DeAnn has practiced law for over 20 years and has appeared in virtually every courthouse in Southern California, defending businesses of all sizes against lawsuits. DeAnn is passionate about sharing her wealth of legal knowledge to help entrepreneurs and business owners to avoid costly mistakes and lawsuits. DeAnn has been honored as a Woman of Entrepreneurship by Comerica Bank and the Los Angeles Lakers, and has received many commendations for her dedication to small business. More recently, her firm was nominated as the Best Law Firm for Small Business by the Best of Small Business Awards, which celebrates business visionaries. DeAnn has a remarkable ability to cut through the uncertainty and confusion experienced by many entrepreneurs and business owners when it comes to legal issues. She's a frequent speaker to groups large and small, has participated on many expert panels, and has been featured as a guest on many podcasts and radio programs. DeAnn has created a broad range of products and programs that help entrepreneurs and business owners to incorporate manageable legal structures and systems into their businesses. So DeAnn, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Candy. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you back. I know you were originally a guest probably about a year ago or so, and I wanted to bring you back and just talk again. There's so much going on with legal issues, and we wanted to make sure that entrepreneurs are aware of what they should be doing. But before we get into the questions that I have for you, I'd love for you to give a little bit more background on yourself and how you actually became a business attorney.
Sure. So I've been practicing law about 25 years now. And boy, time goes by, doesn't it? So I guess it kind of started with, I've always had a love of writing. And I went to UC Berkeley undergrad studying rhetoric, actually, which was all about, how to write and persuade and all that good stuff. So
Right.
I kind of took my writing abilities into law school. And when I came out of law school, I went straight into a big downtown Los Angeles law firm, and we were representing businesses that were being sued. And that's why I say I've been virtually every courthouse in Southern California. And so, and in those, for the first 10 years of my career, I only handled matters that were already, starting with, here's a complaint, we're going to be in court, and defending the businesses. So, I was a trial attorney and defending businesses that were being sued. And I really saw so many structural issues that came up whenever, you get preparing for trial and you're looking at the evidence. And so when just change of life, I started my law firm in 2007, really in order to spend more time with my kids and not be in court all the time.
Right.
And so really taking a front end perspective on businesses and helping them to put legal foundations in place to protect them and make sure they have everything they need when they would get into court. Right. So that's what we've been doing here at Chase Law Group.
Perfect. Well, I know our topic today is going to be talking about what it is to really be legally savvy as a business owner. I know there's so much that can go into that topic, but just for your own definition and to explain to our listeners, what would you say is the definition of being legally savvy?
Right. So in order to be legally savvy, you don't have to have gone to law school as a business owner, but it's about having an awareness and understanding of legal issues that can impact your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it is. I mean, it's about empowering a business owner to operate their business, knowing that they have the legal structures in place to protect them if a lawsuit were to come down the pike. And also being legally savvy involves having a healthy business. So, having good systems, good record keeping, bookkeeping, insurance, and all those sorts of things. So that's kind of big picture on what I talk about when I'm educating business owners on becoming legally savvy in their businesses.
Right. So what would you say would be some of the top things that business owners should really be looking for that could become problems in their business?
Right. Well, I kind of take a structural approach. I say there are basically 5 pillars to a legal structure. And so, looking for pitfalls, I always start with the entity structure. Having a good business entity, an LLC or corporation, making sure that they're set up correctly, that they're maintained. And then the second pillar, if you will, is on their brand side of things. So making sure that their intellectual property is secured by way of trademarks and that sort of thing. The third pillar is in contracts, and basically having written documentation that documents your business and professional relationships. The hot issue is the fourth pillar these days is on the employment side of things.
Yes.
Where as an employer, but particularly here in the state of California, the law is ever changing. There are pitfalls at every step. So on the employment side, and the last side is on real estate, and basically, keeping track of your leases and maybe thinking about using real estate to build your business structures. So
which is interesting right now too, with everything going on with COVID and the changing landscape of even real estate and commercial real estate especially.
Oh, it's incredible the impact that COVID has had on commercial real estate. And what we're finding a lot of right now is business owners, our business clients, are really taking a look at their staffing and their use of their commercial property, and finding that the big buildings and the parking structures, and it's just not as necessary.
Right.
Now in today's environment, being that our consumer, our clients are becoming more comfortable with the fact that they don't have to necessarily come into an office to talk to you, for example, or
right.
Or have a face-to-face meeting, which is something I think COVID has really accelerated on both sides, on the side of the business owner providing services, but also on the side of the consumer, who's now more accepting of the fact that you can have a Zoom call or something like that. And so people are finding they don't need the space as much. And what we're hearing a lot of is people are, having those conversations with their landlords and looking at their lease exits and scaling down.
Right. Yes. Well, I would love for you to touch on, I know your first pillar, you were kind of talking about the legal structures, and I would love for you just to give an overview of those structures and maybe the pros and cons of each. So if someone is thinking right now, maybe they're a sole proprietor, but they're thinking of somehow becoming an entity other than what they are, like should they consider an LLC or an S Corp, maybe just touching on the pros and cons of each so they can be a little more informed.
Sure. So the primary options are corporation or a limited liability company, an LLC. And just putting it right out there, I am a huge fan of the LLC structure because it is a very simple entity to set up, and more importantly, very simple to maintain. But it also has tax ramifications. And so when I'm talking to my clients, particularly people who are sole proprietors, who are talking to their accountants, for example, the accountants are usually saying, oh, we want you to be an S Corp. And what the S Corp is essentially it's a tax function. And I always work very closely with my clients' tax advisors to make sure what I recommend works for their tax perspective. But I still like an LLC that can be taxed as an S corp, which a lot of people don't realize.
Mhm.
So LLCs are great because, going back, I mean, an entity creates it has its own separate legal existence. And
Mhm.
so it is separate from you, and it's a wonderful way to be able to separate your business and your personal liabilities. That's the huge benefit of an LLC or a corporation. And then for tax purposes, you can look at, do you need to be an S corporation? And LLC or corporation is the next conversation.
Mhm.
And on the corporation side of things, basically, I think what happens, particularly for small businesses, is, you might have one or, you have a husband and wife, or you have a couple of business partners or what have you. And if you're set up in a corporate structure, there are a lot of kind of strict rules that need to be applied in a corporate structure that maybe people don't necessarily expect. So
Right.
an example is particularly in business partnerships. People say, oh, we're going into business and you're going to have 30% and I'm going to have 50%. But that doesn't really work in a corporation as much. I mean, it does, but you have to realize you're allocating shares of stock versus percentages of ownership. And that needs to, kind of work out a certain way. And of course, the huge thing for many small business owners is compliance in a corporate
Right.
structure. So particularly, again, with these small businesses, you're almost held to the same standard as a large corporation in that you have to have annual elections, even if you're the sole shareholder, you still have to document that you've had an election where you're electing yourself, as the president, secretary, treasurer, and you still need to have a board of directors, and you need to have an annual meeting, and you should be having special meetings when you have large transactions, like maybe you're, leasing a vehicle or leasing a space or what have you, where technically your board of directors and your corporation should be approving that, and it should be documented. And so, and the reason it matters, because so many people don't do it. So many people, Candy and I have worked together with people like this who have, formed a corporation online, and then they get their book and they put it on the shelf. Sometimes they don't even fill in the blanks. I've seen. And the reason it matters is that, the primary purposes for a corporation are liability protection and tax benefits. So, but you don't get the liability protection if you haven't maintained the formalities of the corporation. And the easiest one is the failure of a small business owners to maintain corporate minutes or documentation of corporate activities. And then, so ultimately, and like I said, I did litigation for 10 years. So when the lawsuit comes in, the party suing you will sue both the corporation and the individuals under what's called an alter ego theory of liability, being that the person is claiming that the owner of the corporation did not maintain it separately, and therefore for purposes of their claim or lawsuit, that then the individual should be allowed to access the individual's, the owner's personal assets. So that's the biggest thing. It's called the alter ego theory of liability, which is basically a failure to comply with corporate formalities, which is a big problem for small businesses having corporations. And then just a caveat though, and particularly in the state of California, many professionals cannot practice their profession through an LLC. So we are oftentimes forming corporate structures, particularly in situations where we have professionals such as, dentists and physical therapists and occupational therapists, and a lot of our professional clients that cannot practice through an LLC.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that we come across that I try to educate the business owners on too is if you are forming one of these entities, you have to separate. You can't have a personal bank account that you also use for business, or I want to get my miles on my Amex, and so I'm going to use it for both. And, I keep telling people you need to separate those, because I'm sure, as you probably educate people all the time on this too, I know there's that term piercing the veil, right? And so we don't want them to pierce that veil.
Well, the piercing the corporate veil comes with that, what you're talking about is another factor, in addition to failure to comply with the formalities by keeping corporate minutes, that is known as commingling. So that's a different factor, which is also, I've seen that used frequently in claims to pierce that veil, is that the owner has commingled personal and business assets. So as soon as that corporation or LLC, because the commingling applies to an LLC as well, as soon as that entity is set up, you need to set up a separate bank account. I say you never write a check or put a charge on a corporate card or LLC card that you can't justify through your tax advisor as being a legitimate business expense, because again, in litigation, they ask for copies, that party suing you will ask for copies of your corporate bank statements and that sort of thing, because they are looking for commingling.
Right. Exactly. So one of those things that we often need to educate them on, because I think it's just easier sometimes too. Well, it's just easier to have one account, or like I said, I want to get my miles or something, but I'm like, please don't, please, let's keep you protected. If that's the point of having your entity is for protection, we need to make sure that you're doing everything right, to keep that protection. So.
We see that a lot. And also we do a lot of what I call corporate cleanup, which is basically, if people come to us who have had corporations for years and years and have never done corporate minutes, for example. And so we really help them to kind of clean up their corporation and get it in a more presentable fashion. I was talking to a client the other day, actually, who said that his company is like a 4-generation owned business. They've been in business a very long time, and we've been working together for a long time. But he said, when I was talking to him about corporate minutes and how important they are, he said to me, well, I've been audited by the IRS twice. He goes, and they have asked for my corporate minutes every single time. And he goes, and because of you and your firm, I actually had them. So he turned them, he said, I had them and it was very easy. And they just said, okay. And they checked it off. But a lot of people don't realize how important it is.
Right. And I think small business owners are just so busy with all the hats they wear, right? Especially if it's 1 or 2 owners, right? And they're doing the marketing and the HR, and they're trying to be the salesperson, and they might be managing employees. And so they might think, I'll get to it, or it's not as important as these other things. And they run out of time, right? So it's not always necessarily intentional, but it is a problem.
Well, I mean, a lot of times what I see is, business owners, I think, don't recognize necessarily how important these things are. Or like you said, they do get so busy, wearing so many hats and just basically struggling to keep the business going, worried about cash flow and all of that some of these things kind of get pushed off to the side, or they say, oh, I'll just, download a template, or, or I'll, or Joe did this, I'll do what Joe did. Joe doesn't know anything more than you do, but we're going to listen.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's really what I'm about, is about making these, basically making access to legal information available to business owners. And that's really what I'm working on now with some of the programs that I'm working on, is just basically to get business owners the information they need from a reliable source.
Right. It's so important. Well, we know we've been months and months into now COVID-19, and so many things have impacted businesses. And I would love for you to touch on maybe things that business owners need to be aware of that maybe they're not because of this issue.
Oh, there's so many things. And I feel so horrible for my business clients. They'll call us up, and again, that's the nice thing about having a relationship with our clients, is they call us up as things come up. So, for example, when businesses were being shut down, as they are now being shut down again, a lot of questions from my clients, from business clients, are what do I do with my employees? Do I have to pay them? Can I cut back their hours? What about working remotely? So now we have a lot of employees working remotely that maybe the job wasn't originally designed for a remote relationship. And so what it really involves is a lot of employment issues on the part of our business owners, particularly, the ones that have employees, is it's like at every step, there are these questions that come up. So for example, I have clients that are dentists, and so they have a lot of employees. And so one of the questions when the dental practices are being closed down is, how do I, furlough, which is more of a temporary juncture, furloughing your employees and following the very particular rules that apply to how you do that. I think it's a good idea, and part of what I talk about being a legally savvy business owner is going directly to the source of the rules. So the U.S. Department of Labor has a great website with a lot of really good information about what these employers need to be doing in very particular circumstances. You've got employees who, my poor, what happens if you have, like I've had situations where, an employee comes to the employer and says, my spouse tested positive. They've tested negative, so how do you do that? It's like, I think the best bet is always to err on the side of caution. So in that case, sometimes we're just kind of reacting along with our clients. We're constantly, trying to figure out what the requirements are. But if in doubt, I just say they're going to need to quarantine. And then that comes down to, okay, then under the new laws, then those employees are entitled to, if they're quarantined for a COVID-related reason, then you're looking at family and medical leave, and paid leave, even by small employers. And that, of course, we've got distance learning situations where we have parents who are working from home, and the employer is trying to figure out, how that works. So honestly, there are so many different pitfalls that are coming up with COVID, whether it's, being aware of, I've got clients in the entertainment industry. So it's being aware of not only what the federal rules are, but also what your state and local rules are. So in California, we're being governed a lot by, what the governor is putting down, right, for employers and businesses, but also, there are county requirements. So like, for example, I've got entertainment clients that are doing production in LA County that has its own orders. So it's a matter of just being aware that your business and, business owners, they know their business, right? They may not know all the laws necessarily, but they know their business. And I think they just need to reach out and get access to information, again, about what they need to know that can impact their business. And so a lot of it relates to employees particular, but it also relates to what are your obligations to your customers? What about, mask wearing and all of that? So those are the biggest issues. And I think the answer is go to the source. Go to the Employment Development Department for the state of California, go to the U.S. Department of Labor, and I say seek out and follow competent legal advice.
Competent being the key word there.
Competent legal advice, right? Making sure that, I have people who talk to someone at a birthday party or whatever, and they said, hey, again, Joe, Joe says I'm supposed to be doing this. And I'm like, well, yeah, but Joe may not know everything.
And things change, like you said. I mean, we had originally, here in California too, or in our county, we had a lockdown, and over time things loosened up a little bit. And now it's back to, we're at this tier where we can't have certain things, and it's looking like it might even be where non-essential businesses could potentially be shut down again, and so it's just really knowing what's happening. And then a lot of the laws that were passed, even the reimbursement for the COVID were due to expire December 31st of 2020, and what's going to happen in 2021 if this is still continuing, so it's going to be interesting to really just be watching what's happening and trying to stay abreast of all those changes so that we're doing everything we can to protect, our employees, our customers, ourselves, but following those rules and regulations that are constantly changing, it's hard to keep track.
It's really hard to keep track.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you do need to have a reliable place to be able to go and get timely information about these changes in the laws.
Right. So talking about finding that competent legal advice too, like what would you recommend to somebody? How would they find someone who really is competent in that area and know that it's not just someone who's hung up a shingle and says that they've got law experience, and can help you? Like what advice would you give them to find someone that could really help?
I think that you want to go to your local chamber of commerce. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good starting point because a lot of local, people who have a local state of mind who are looking to support local business owners will go to the Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the best place. Your chamber CEO knows everyone. So they're in contact with your community. And what you'll find is whether it's an accountant or a lawyer, if they're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, I think that they are in the state of mind of wanting to give back to be a mm-hmm. participant in the business community. So I think that's usually the best place to start. And then also, maybe go to a bar association. I'm in Southern California, so we've got, LA County Bar, South Bay Bar Association, these bar associations that have, referral services and that sort of thing. So, mm-hmm. And take a look at, you can, if you go, for example, calbar.org, you can search any lawyer. So that will tell you, how long they've been practicing law. So, and the scary thing is some of these lawyers, they're just like a lot of other professions where they graduate from law school and they can't get a job in a big firm or can't get a job at all. So they say, oh, I'm going to start my own law firm. Mm-hmm. But they don't have years of experience to be able to advise. I think young lawyers need to be working in a firm with others, other attorneys to get the experience and the feedback themselves. So it's kind of, I think as a business owner, I wouldn't encourage you to go to a lawyer that's been practicing law in their field for, less than 5 years. Mm-hmm. And if they've been on their own for a while, you'd want to ask those questions.
Right. I think another great resource for that too is if you have friends that are business owners as well, reaching out and asking them, like, who have you used, have you had an employment attorney, or do you have someone who's helped you form your business entity, and get referrals that way? Because most of the time they're going to have, if they've had a great experience and they have someone who's been able to help them, they're going to be able to refer you to them as well. And that's why I love to be a resource for my own clients. And I have all different kinds of people in different industries that I can refer, that I know, like, trust, and have no doubts about referring. So I think it's important to reach out to some type of professional, whether it's, ask your CPA if they know an attorney or a financial planner, or, a lot of us in the financial realm have industry, referrals that we can give to a lot of different people as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's very helpful. Is if you, a lot of people have a very good relationship with their CPA, or if they mm-hmm. don't, they need to find one that they can have that relationship with. And then the CPA a lot of times can give them good guidance as well. And, and that's what I said, that's what I'm working on right now is I've got a new program that I put together. It's the Legally Savvy Business Program, where on a monthly basis, we have, up to the minute question and answer type of availability every month, where someone can come to us, kind of come to a group setting. They can ask their questions, get their questions answered at a high level mm-hmm. without necessarily, retaining an attorney. Because a lot of times the question is, well, what sort of, do I need an attorney?
Right.
What sort of attorney do I need? All those questions. So, and then we're doing on a monthly basis, have just basically, bite-sized legal content, if you will. Right. Sometimes it's a lot to swallow.
Oh, for sure.
And so it's about, like I said, it's about having education, just
mm-hmm.
having education on legal issues as they impact your business. So so that's why I'm excited about the program that we're really going to be launching it in 2021. We're doing a soft launch now, but the idea is to provide legal education on key legal issues, bringing resources to our clients, like you say, there are a lot of other resources that are really important, whether it's bookkeeping, it's insurance, it's estate planning. So we're going to have, quarterly experts come in and talk to our members about the services they provide and all those sorts of things. So my mission is really to just give business owners a safe place to go to get information.
That's so important. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you shared that, because I wanted to ask you if you had, something to share with the listeners. So that sounds like a perfect opportunity for someone to have, an entry into that field without having to retain an attorney on, some issue that they have. They could just be like, hey, like, what do I do if I need a contract for someone? Or is this person really an independent contractor, or are they an employee, right? One of the main issues that we have going on right now too. So I think that would be helpful. And then if there's more in-depth help they need, then at least they feel comfortable and know they can reach out and have that extra assistance as needed too. But I think that's a great program that you're starting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I've been working on it for a while now. And like I said, we're launching it it's legallybulletproof.com. So I'm putting on free workshops on how to legally bulletproof your business, and then and it's again more legal information. And for some people that might just be enough. They want that ongoing community and support, without necessarily, taking the leap. Maybe they just don't have anything pressing right now that they need to hire an attorney, but they need access to the information. So that's where my Legally Savvy business program comes in, which is just a monthly program. And then I also have a program for my business clients, the Legal Essentials, which is if you say, okay, now do it for me.
Right.
That is an actual attorney-client relationship where we are performing legal services. And, and I say the legal essentials. What do you need? You need a business entity. You need a custom contract for your business. You need a trademark for your business. You want to make sure and do a good clearance search to make sure, even if you're already using your business name, that someone isn't already using it, and it's going to send you a cease and desist letter. So plus, the Legal Essentials program provides that access to now in an attorney-client relationship where you want to be able to call us and ask us a question, but a lot of people are like, am I going to get billed for this call? Or,
right.
I need to talk fast because I know you're billing. And I've had clients, I know you're billing me for this call. I have to talk fast. So that's why I created the Legal Essentials program, which it includes, calls and emails. So our clients can call us and know that they're not I don't want my clients afraid to call me if they have a business problem or opportunity. They may say, hey, I have an opportunity to maybe buy up a competitor. I'm seeing that a lot in this industry where in business right now, where some business owners are just closing up shop, and other entrepreneurs, more entrepreneurial business owners are like, well, that might be a good opportunity to maybe buy up some competition, or, buy a business that's going under that might have a pretty solid client base.
Right.
So there's some good opportunities out there. Well.
That was my topic, like I said, of the show last week. We were talking mergers and acquisitions and things to know. And it's not even, like the negative side of that. It could be someone who just is, ready to retire, but it could be someone who's struggling, who needs someone to come in. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting topic we discussed last week too. So you're following up on that is perfect timing.
Yeah, no, we see a lot of it. So we work, with clients who are launching, who are growing, scaling, and then exiting their business.
The whole cycle of business.
This whole cycle, different stages. And, and these five pillars I talk about really apply at every stage of business, and sometimes in different ways.
Yes.
So again, that's where my program is designed to have a business owner at maybe at different stages of their business come in And we say, okay, where are they coming into the program, and what information maybe do they need to refresh on? Or like I said, the corporate cleanup, maybe we need to kind of backtrack a little bit and
Right.
go back to the start and, work on some of those legal structures. As an example, and you mentioned it earlier, is people who've been a sole proprietor for many years.
Right.
And then they come to me and they say, well, should I, or they talk to their CPA, and the CPA is like, okay, yeah, now it's time, right? Now, my personal opinion is that a business owner should form the entity from the start.
Right.
Just make that clear. But it doesn't always happen that way. And so, so then we help to, let you know when you're taking a sole proprietor and you're now moving into a business entity, different things that need to be done. Like, you'll need to get the business entity gets a new EIN number.
Right.
Now you're going to set up those separate bank accounts that we talked about. You need to republish your fictitious business name statements, which a lot of people don't realize. So there are some things that need to be happening, at different stages, whether they're starting out with a business entity or maybe they do business for a little bit of time before they form that entity.
Right. And from an accounting and payroll perspective, I would say ideally, if you were operating as one entity and you're changing to another, a January 1st start date is ideal because otherwise you've got two entities that you're reporting payroll under, and you've got two entities that you're doing bookkeeping under, and it complicates the issue. So ideally for us, if you're going to, then try to have a January 1st start date if you're going to incorporate or have a different entity type. That's just to make it easier for us.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that's true. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, especially at this time of year, so people they're looking at forming a business entity, right? So if they form their business entity, which I've seen this happen, they say, oh, I want to be up and running by January 1st. So it's now December. So I'm going to form my business entity on my own. I'm going to file December 10th, 14th, 3rd, whatever. What they don't realize is, especially if they're an LLC, they're going to get an $800 bill from the California Franchise Tax Board, because they're now paying the $800 California tax to be an LLC for what's left 2020.
Right.
And a corporation has a first year waive, but then after that they pay $800. So they're using up their waiver if they're a corporation. But if they there's a little bit of a trick to it, is if you file it and you have to be very careful about the date that you file to avoid the $800. But if you file basically towards the end of December, and then you allow your articles to pass through the Secretary of State without paying expedited filing fees, so then your entity is now going to be up and running by as close to January 1st. Where some people say, I want it January 1st, so they wait till January 1st,
right,
and then they file, and then they have to wait for it to process. So there's a lot of timing issues this time of year on that. So we work with our clients to help them to get their entities set up so it's ready to go, at or about the beginning of January.
Right. Which is perfect from my perspective. But of course, if you're in the middle of the year and you really want that protection, you can do that. It just complicates it on, the accounting side of things or the payroll side of things. But protect yourself is what you're basically going to say, right?
Yeah. Don't wait. Don't wait. If it comes up, anytime throughout the year. I mean, at this time of year, I say, unless you have something pressing, like you're signing, you're buying a building, or you're signing a long-term contract. Otherwise, yeah, I'd say you could have insurance, always have insurance.
Right. Exactly.
Right. But during the year, that's true. It complicates some of the accounting, but in the long run, it's worthwhile. I have that happen, if you take on a business partner, mid-year, right. That will impact, your tax structure. Maybe you'll go from being taxed as a sole proprietor to being taxed as a partnership, or,
right.
What have you. So, it's unfortunate, but it's just one of those things that you have to, if you work with someone who's a professional like yourself and many other financial experts and professionals out there who do it, it's like, as long as you're working with the right people, it doesn't have to be a nightmare.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been informative. I know there's like so much information we really could talk about, but we wanted to just kind of just touch on a little bit of this being legally, savvy business owner and just kind of cover a few of those topics. But if people have more questions or they need some assistance and want to reach out to you, how can they reach you?
Let's see. So I have a few different things. Well, first off, I want to offer your listeners a free ebook on the top 5 legal mistakes small business owners make. So as part of being legally savvy, like we talked about, it's about spotting the issue.
Right.
So if you text BizLaw, so BIZLAW, to 26786, BizLaw to 26786, you'll get a free ebook. And then also you'll be on my mailing list, and I'll be able to let you know when things are happening. You can follow me on Instagram at Chase Law Group, or you can check out my my website, chaselawmb, as in manhattanbeach.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you, DeAnn, for being a guest on my show today. I really appreciate it, and the input that you've given. I'm sure listeners will find it extremely helpful.
Thank you, Candy. It's always a pleasure. I love working with you, and I love the opportunity to share this information with people who need it.
Perfect. And I want to thank the listeners actually for tuning in as well and watching this episode. I hope you found it interesting, and it did answer a few questions about what to do to be a legally savvy business owner. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to DeAnn at any of the links that she shared, or you can reach us at media@abandp.com. And would you please share this episode with those you know? I'd greatly appreciate your support. Join us again next week for another important discussion, as we will be educating you on other things to have you have your successful business. And again, you can find my website at abandp.com. And you can also find the link shared on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.